This episode is dropping. I am sitting in Cabo enjoying a 2-week long vacation. This got me thinking about what it took to make this vacation happen and challenges that ADHDers often face with balancing the dopamine hits that we get from buying stuff. So short-term, immediate enjoyment in the now versus saving up for something bigger and grander and enjoyable, because vacations give us one hell of a dopamine hit and repeated hits after the fact when we relive those memories. But it can be very hard with our time blindness and those urgent dopamine demands from our brain to ever get to the financial state where vacations, like me going to Cabo, I live on the East Coast of the US, which means I have to transverse the entire width of the North American continent and come south a bit in order to get to Cabo, along with staying in the timeshare that I have, which is a whole different level of savings. But I wanted to explore today kind of two things. One, the dopamine hits and value that us ADHDers do get from vacation. And it doesn't matter what the vacation is. You know, if you're not a beach, like Cabo type style person, you can do mountain, you can do activity, you can do adventure, you can do cruise, whatever it is. The dopamine hits, the benefits that we get are all the same. And how we balance saving for longer term money things against immediate joy. Welcome back for those of you that are subscribers and that have been following along. And for those of you that had this sent to you by a friend, family member, welcome. I'm Shane G. I'm an ADHD money coach that helps ADHDers transition their relationship with money from one that is often marked with stress and angst to one empowerment and enablement with ADHD-friendly money tips to keep everything aligned and in order. And this trade-off that we're going to talk about today of short-term versus long-term is another one of those examples of things that everybody faces. Everybody could relate to this episode. So it's not unique to ADHDers. There's nothing wrong with us, but there are things about ADHD brains that amplify the challenges that exist here, right? So let's talk about why ADHD brains struggle to save. And again, you'll notice a lot of these things I'm talking about, your neurotypical friends would totally relate with. We either experience it differently or more intensely as ADHDers. So the first thing is the dopamine again. I've said it before. I'll say it again many times. Shame I don't get paid each time I say it. ADHD, one of the D's should be dopamine, because that's what a lot of things come back to. But yes, both a short-term achievement and a long-term achievement give you dopamine. But it comes down to, do you want a dopamine hit now or a dopamine hit later? And I don't want to make it sound like dopamine is an addiction, but it portrays itself and can create some of the similar feelings where if you ask someone that's addicted to someone, do they want it now or later? Even if they can get double the amount later, we all know what they're going to choose. And with dopamine, it's not as strong as an outright addiction, but it's not as strong as an outright addiction in how it feels and manifests, right? On a side note, that is why studies have shown slightly higher correlations with addictive behaviors in ADHDers. It's the exact same reason, the dopamine and that kind of correlation. But what this really comes down to is, how do we, with the dopamine, get ourselves to wait for a potentially bigger dopamine hit later, right? And then when you add in time blindness, that later feels much, much later. Now, this is a piece, again, everyone struggles between, do I want it now or do I want it later? Do I want $10 today or $5,000, 2 months from now kind of questions. But for ADHDers, time blindness is what I almost call the dog effect, right? Whether you leave your house for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, it feels like 5 days or 5 weeks to a dog. And in some ways, that's similar to how time blindness manifests. Something that's 5 hours away can feel like weeks or months away. So imagine what a vacation a year away, let's say you start planning a year in advance, a vacation a year away feels like to you an eternity, a decade, right? It feels immeasurable. So we've got the dopamine making you want something now. We've got time blindness making the further away feel even further away. Then we've got impulse stacking, right? So, oh, I like a candy. Oh, like a treat. Oh, I like this, right? And each one we're telling ourselves, oh, that's $10. Oh, that's $10. Oh, that's $10. Well, $10 10 times is 100. $10 100 times is 1,000. And you're like, oh, I don't do a habit 100 times. Well, if you get a $10 coffee each morning, bit of a stretch in pricing, but I don't know what Vente's are going for this day in Starbucks. If you get one every day for a quarter, you're at 90 times. If you do it over the course of the year, you're at over 300 times, right? Almost 400. So depending on the type of habit or impulse you've got, it can be there, right? So the other thing that happens is the emotional response we have as these events happen, often called the shame cycle, or I like the shame spiral, right? You look at your money, you were supposed to be saving. By now, your beautiful plan that you made and got a dopamine hit from making says you should have $500 in the bank towards this 3K vacation. You look at the bank, you have $5 put aside for it, not the 500 you should. You feel bad about it, you get depressed, and what do you do to feel better? You go buy something, you comfort yourself, making the problem worse. So, 4 things we've talked about here: dopamine, time blindness, impulse stacking, and the shame spiral, that really are ADHD focused and amplify and exaggerate the challenges we have in saving for longer term things. But what do we get from these longer term things? Let's explore the other side of this. The longer term things in most cases do give you dopamine, right? They give you a dopamine hit. A vacation can give you multiple dopamine hits. Particularly if you're trying new things, you've got the excitement of getting there, you've got the excitement of living it. But the thing about experiences is they, in most cases, leave behind memories with emotional attachment that create future dopamine hits when you think back to and kind of relive the moments you had. So yes, a vacation is a longer term goal. Yes, a vacation requires you to save, but it also gives you more, right? It arguably is going to give you more than those 100 dopamine hits that you gave up for it. But this is another really important point that I work with a lot of my clients on. They'll say to me, well, Shane, I have to give something up, or I'm losing something, and I'm like, well, first of all, if you frame it that way, you're never going to do it, because you're framing it as a biased question or a biased perspective. You're framing it as, I have to lose something. But is that true? Is that really true? Because from my perspective, you're gaining something. There is a whole lot of people in this world that do not get to go on vacation at all, right? There's a whole lot of people that when they do go on vacation, they're packing up in the car. They're leaving early on a Saturday morning. They're going to the nearest beach. They can afford a hotel for one night. They stay as long as they can at the beach, and they're driving back having only rinsed off at the beach to come home. So when I take my perspective on it, I don't know that I'm losing anything. To me, I'm gaining a vacation that some people will never take in their lifetimes, right? And I'm gaining from it an unmeasurable number of memories, enjoyment, and future dopamine hits. So I think part of this goes down to, actually, I shouldn't say I think, for me at least, I know it does, how you frame this. If you immediately start with trying to plan for a longer term financial goal, whether it's a vacation, whether it's retirement, and you automatically frame it from a place of loss, you're starting with the negative. You need to start with the positive. What do you get, right? What do you gain? Because if you're not gaining anything, there's no reason to do it. So clearly you're gaining something. You know you're gaining something. Well, let's think about what you're gaining, right? I'm gaining 2 weeks of not working. So that's 2 weeks of time that I fully control. If I want to sleep all day, I sleep all day. I'm gaining, the nice accommodations I stay in with a private pool, private hot tub. I'm gaining nice weather, a change of scenery. Like, what are you getting? Ground yourself in what you're getting. And for things like vacation, that should be easier because it's fun, it's exciting. We'll do future videos on how to psych yourself up for retirement, but that's what you're getting. You're getting a reward for all the work you've put in, right? Now, the financial reality might be that you have to go to Starbucks less times. You have to eat out a few times less, right? But are you really losing something, right? Like, and maybe the answer is yes, and that's fine. That doesn't mean you can't make this happen. That just means that might not be the thing that you cut in order to make this happen. And don't always assume you have to cut something. There's a number of clients that come in specifically for me to help them plan for a longer term goal, a vacation. And they come in assuming I have to give something up. Well, sometimes we start looking at their finances and we're like, wait a minute, here's 3 categories of spending that we can potentially save on without you really giving much or anything up. So always start there. What can you cut as a no cost thing? And you shouldn't just do that as I'm gearing up to save for something. That should just be a regular activity to keep money behind, because $1 saved today is worth more than $1 tomorrow when you put it in a high yield savings account or you invest it. So don't always just assume you're going to have to give something up. But if you do, I find people tend to view it is the extreme worst case scenario and jump to giving up something they don't want to give up. Well, maybe that's not what you have to give up. Maybe we can find a way for you to use less electricity, get your electricity bill down by $20 a month, which might not sound life-changing, but over 10 months, it's $200, right? And that's the other thing. We often think, and this is an ADHD thing, in all or nothing terms, okay? So if we look at it and go, oh, we can save $20 a month on your electric, there's 200 of the 3K you have. A lot of ADHD brains are like, well, that's not all of it. I that's not going to work. I need 3K. And it's like, okay, and we're going to get there. That's just step one. And I think that's part of the executive dysfunction, just not seeing and building that clear path from, in this case, 200 to 3K, right? So don't assume you have to give it up. But often those things, let's take the coffee every day as an example. So you get a coffee every day at Starbucks. Do you really need it 7 days a week? Let's just say that's your pattern now. What if you drop to 5? What if you space it out so it's every other? Still getting coffee, you're still getting that enjoyment. Can you have it at home some of the time and still get roughly the same enjoyment, right? There's traps that our brains put us into. And one of the things about ADHD that's interesting is we're not always great at forming habits, but when we do, we really stick to them. And the number of clients that I've worked with that we've identified spending, I keep picking on coffee, but that's not because I'm on some vendetta against the daily coffee. It's just an example a lot of people can relate to. But those clients I've worked with in my coaching program that we start to talk about, how do you feel as you have your coffee? And I love asking that question because 90% of my clients make the exact same face that I do when you're asked questions like that are like, well, how does that make you feel? You give this question like, what a bullshit question. And it is, but it's not, because as you break it down, you start to realize, wait a minute, it's not about the coffee. It's about the routine and the familiarness that it gives me and the grounding that gives my brain, right? And if that's the case, then we can probably replace that with something cheaper or something free. Right? Now, it might be you love that coffee. That coffee is a big deal to you. Then we aren't going to touch your coffee. And that's another great thing about when I get to work with clients as a coach, is we get to tailor it to what really works for you. So let's now talk about, with the time we have left before I completely lose your focus, on ways to actually save. Okay. And so for those of you that are watching this visually, I'm going to show you something on my phone here real quick. So look at that. That is the background of my phone. And that is a picture I took of the resort that our timeshare is at. That is the pathways lit at night. So our timeshare is not a big Marriott timeshare, Hilton Vacation Club, any of that with all these points and whatever. It's an old school, like more old school style US timeship. It's deeded. I know the exact weeks. There's only about, I think, 15 villas on the property. So it's kind of a small, more intimate thing. But that's what the walkways look like. It's all these trees and there's lights at night. And it's just interesting because you see those deep blues coming out of that photo. That is unedited, raw footage. That's not them putting up any blue lights. It's just regular lights there showing what it looks like. This photo being my background does two very important things for me. One, if I'm having a bad day, a bad mood, I can look at that and boom, I'm instantly transported to a vacation, to a memory there. Dopamine hits, free, no charge, or prepaid, because I paid for those dopamine hits when I was on vacation, right? And paid for the vacation. The other thing though, is it makes it a visual and tangible reminder of why I work so hard, why I'm saving money, why I'm putting it away. So there's two levels of visuals that are important here. Level one is the goal, the vision. You can't just say I'm going on vacation. I'm going to tell you right now, when clients come into me and say, I want to save for a once in a lifetime vacation, I'm like, awesome. What's the vacation? I need you to tell me about it. And if they can't, I'm like, you're not ready, because here's the thing. It's going to get hard. It's going to get challenging. And you saying to myself, I need to give up this $100 item that's in my Amazon cart on Prime days, that's usually $300. You simply saying, I'm going to get to go on a lifelong vacation isn't enough. You have to be able to say, I'm going to get to go to Cabo. I'm going to get to see that photo of what it looks like at night. I'm going to get to hang out with the animals that they have on the property. I'm going to get my private pool, my private hot tub. You have to be able to ground yourself in that level of detail so you visualize yourself already there, because that's how you can start to borrow against the dopamine. You're not really borrowing because your brain can make as much as it needs, but start to pull in dopamine from that experience before you've ever had it. And that's very important to grounding you in it. The other visual piece to it is tracking your progress. So you get dopamine hits from progress. You need to celebrate. The first deposit you put in to make money needs to be imagine you've got one of those progress bars with little dots at different goal points. The first one needs to be the very first dollar, the very first deposit you save, and you need to make it a big freaking deal. You need to go, I saved money for vacation, and make it a big deal to bring on the dopamine, to cheer yourself on, get your family in with it, get the people going on it with you to join in. The second thing is we need to break down the timeline. Right? So visualizing what it is, having the photo of where you're going, the resorts you're staying in, things like that are great to help, but shrink the timeline. Saying, oh, I need to save $3,000 for this vacation by a year from now. So next September, you're not going to make it. What you need to say is, I need $100 by October. I need $500 by December. I need $800 by February. Break it down. The beautiful thing about this, it gives you more wins, which gives you more dopamine. Break it down as small as you can where it's reasonable, because we have to be careful of the shame spiral. If we break it down too much into, say, daily goals, and we miss one, it could feel devastating and make it hard for us to re-engage when it's non-material. So I do recommend weekly can be good. You see what feels right. Monthly can be good, right? Generally, I recommend for people to start with monthly, and then maybe the goal is monthly, but you're doing weekly check-ins. I like that approach because it's like, okay, week one, I'm short. That's okay. I just have to make it up next week, right? Also, if you're not paid weekly, making it a weekly goal doesn't matter. Also, when you're tracking it, this is a logistical thing, separate bank account. We need to make it simple. I love a spreadsheet, love a good spreadsheet, but we don't need that complexity. Just put the money in the account, high yield savings accounts, you earn the interest you can. Yes, it's probably only going to be dollars, but we want to build good habits now. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Great quote. Can't remember who said it, but it's a great quote nonetheless. 3, gamify it. Each time you don't make a purchase and you put that money into the vacation fund, celebrate. So one of the things I teach people is, if you recognize that the purchase you're about to make is just impulsive, put it in a wish list. Wait 24 hours, see if you still want to buy it. If you do, buy it. If you don't just not buy it. Transfer that money to the vacation fund, because you are starting to retrain your brain to experience dopamine with a future win, because you did win today. It's easy to say, oh, I didn't achieve anything, but you did. You put more money towards the vacation. And I've had clients find out that by doing this, they end up with more money when they hit their vacation. It may not work every time. That's okay. You'll end up with some cool stuff, but it helps to reprogram the dopamine experience in your brain. And finally, make it automatic. On payday, a certain amount of money. So we're going to expand pay yourself first. Absolute first thing on payday that should happen is, boom, money goes to retirement. Next, boom, money goes to vacation fund. Then you pay all your bills. Okay. That's how it goes, right? Now, in the event you have to take money out of the vacation fund, something unexpected happens, car needs new tires, car breaks down, heating breaks, something like that. Life happens. It's not the end of the world. We're going to get back on course, right? That's a whole nother video where we can talk about when money plans don't go as planned, but just want to call it out. The best plans are structured but flexible enough to accommodate changes, right? So if you end up going backwards, you still hit all those previous milestones, right? And you can update the plan then. If you were to take 500 out, update your targets, right? To try and compensate for that. And maybe part of the plan is you're going to have to put a final 200 of this on a credit card. That's not a failure. That just means instead of your plan stopping at the day you leave for vacation, where you had all 3K saved up, you're carrying 200 or 300 2 months after the vacation. That still is a viable money plan. Let's bring this all together, ladies and gentlemen. As you can hear, I'm excited. I love to travel. It is one of my vices. I don't actually fall into impulsive dopamine spending that often. I'm more, oh, it's vacation time, I'm allowed to spend, and I overdo the vacation dopamine hits and maybe overdo vacation a little, but I love a good vacation. I love the memories it gives me. I love the experiences. The real travel. Yeah. See, that's how much I love travel. I'm saying travel when I mean challenge, because I solve my challenges by getting on a plane. The real challenge for ADHDers isn't enjoying a vacation. It's making it happen in the first place. And one of the sad things I see sometimes is ADHDers that have these grand dreams for a vacation, and they don't get the enjoyment they want because they aren't able to save up enough. And they aren't able to save up enough because they don't make enough. They just fall a little short in controlling their dopamine spending. Then they go on vacation. It doesn't feel as glamorous as they thought it would because they had to cut it back from what their original dream was. And now they've created a spiral downward of, oh, I should just keep spending. Once you get that first really grand vacation that was everything you wanted, you're going to be hooked. And I don't generally advocate ADHD people getting hooked on things, but this is one that helps because it helps elongate your ability to save, your ability to money plan for longer term duration things, right? So let's leave you with a little action item, a little homework after this episode. Please put it in the comments. If your social platform supports that. If it doesn't, you can find this on YouTube and put it there. What is your dream ADHD vacation? And by ADHD vacation, that just means you're an ADHD, you're going on vacation. What is it? Share it with us. Let's all get excited about it together and the amazing things that we can do together. If this video would be helpful for someone else, please, please, please share it. It's one of the best things you can do for me, and it's completely free for you. If you're interested in working with me, I've been dropping some, tidbits about how coaching works, free 30-minute session. Check out the link below. We can look at spending. We can look at helping you make more money to afford a vacation. Either way, hit me up and I would be happy to help you. You want some vacation ideas, places I've been, feel free to hit me up as well. With that said, this is Shanji signing off and getting back to that pool.